Okay. Thank you for taking the time to sit down with us, Senator Horn. Before we start, I would like to let you know that the Jackson Youth Newsroom does not endorse candidates. Our role is to make sure that candidates for local office are responsive to needs and concerns of young people, whether they are voting age or not. We have prepared several questions on the top issues that came in our recent survey of JPS high school students. But before we get to the tough questions, we have a few quick warm-ups. What's your favorite place to eat in Jackson?
Favorite place to eat? Walker's.
I've never been there. What was your worst subject when you were in high school?
Math. I was okay, but math, once I got past algebra 2, I quit. I quit taking it. I had fulfilled my math requirements, and that was it.
Who is the Jacksonian, past or present, who inspires you the most?
My father.
Okay, now we're going to dig into the issues. Between March 20th and April 1st, we collected 106 survey responses from students ages 13 to 19. We pulled five trending topics from their answers: youth opportunities, infrastructure/roads, crime and safety, education, and economic development.
Hi, I'm Aubrey. So we're going to start with youth opportunities. Young people said that they want more fun things to do and more recreational spaces. What's your plan to revitalize Jackson's parks and ensure that young people have safe places to swim, play basketball, and hang out?
Okay. Well, let me first say that I think we ought to have opportunities for youth to earn, have part-time jobs and earn extra money. And I like to put together what was once called the Neighborhood Youth Corps, where kids had an opportunity to work during the summer. I worked at the zoo. I worked at the city public works department when I was in high school, and I also had I was a newspaper carrier. So I'd like to return an opportunity for young people to earn a living and to develop skills. As far as recreational opportunities and fun things to do, as I mentioned to you all a minute ago, we're having this boot camp at Battlefield Park on Saturday at 10 o'clock. It used to be a premier park. I mean, it was a real show place for the city. I went over there the other day to cut a TV spot with the trainer, and it was horrible enough to make you want to cry. They had state-of-the-art tennis courts, Rubico clay courts, hard court surfaces, had softball fields, baseball fields, soccer fields, playgrounds, and I was amazed that the fence had been torn down. Somebody run a truck or something through the tennis court fence. There was grass growing in the court. The playground was in bad shape. The soccer fields, baseball fields, horrible shape. Grass was up about that high. There were dead limbs and trees just laying down. It was in a great state of disrepair, and I don't believe that it has to be that way. Somebody in the Public Works Department or Parks and Recreation is falling down on the job, and it's not just about money. So our plan is to revitalize every park in Jackson, to make them fun, exciting, clean, well-kept places for people to come and enjoy the outdoors. Down across from the convention center, I see that young people have created a makeshift skate park. Why we may have makeshift parks like that? It wouldn't cost a lot of money to create a skate park. So we plan to establish one that's well constructed, that kids from all walks of life can come out and enjoy it. I also think that Jackson should have its own regional sportsplex. And by that, I mean a place where locals can go to train, to enjoy. We would want to have pickleball courts, softball courts, baseball courts, football fields, soccer fields, indoor-outdoor track and field. The medical mall is working on a regional sportsplex that not only the locals can use, but also can be a place where we attract people for regional sports tourism from a 4 or 5 state region. In Jackson is there's nothing between Birmingham, Alabama, and Shreveport, Illinois, like what I'm talking about. And I think that's doable in Jackson. As far as other fun things to do, I really think that there should be places where kids can safely hang out and be supervised, but places where they can go indoors for hanging out with other kids their age. There aren't many places like that. Maybe have more open arcades and places where they can come to go to see games or play games. And so that's another thing I like to do. But the other thing that I'd love to do is sit down more and talk to y'all about what's the latest, what's happening, because I don't know. I don't know what you want to be engaged in. You have to tell me, and I'm willing to listen.
Okay, thank you. So alarmingly, only 10% said that they were likely to stay in Jackson after they finished school. Many cited a lack of opportunities. What's your plan to turn Jackson into a place where young people see a future for themselves?
Very good question. And according to our statistics, it's not as high as 90% leaving, but after college, within 2 years, 40% of our graduates leave Jackson, leave Mississippi for other places. They're going to Dallas, they're going to Houston, they're going to Austin, they're going to Nashville, they're going to Atlanta, they're going to New York, Washington, D.C., and L.A. And a lot of it is because of the perceived and real situation that there's nothing to do. There are no jobs that will give them an opportunity to earn a livable wage. So we've got to turn that dynamic around, and I think we can do some of it with technology. If you're familiar with the Bean Path, have any of you heard of the Bean Path? Yeah, you've been there? Nationally, CFA is trying to create a tech hub in Jackson, and the Bean Path is what she calls it. It's over on Gallatin Street, and she's not getting any resources, any help from the state. She's not getting any help from the city. And I think that we need to change that narrative and have her get some resources from both the city and the state to really put that thing on steroids and get it going faster. Technology, artificial intelligence, cyber security, those are some things that are jobs that are going to be jobs for the future. And we need to do everything we can to create those jobs so that we can keep our young people here to work in those kinds of occupations and career paths. We're working right now with the U.S. Department of Defense to try to create a partnership between the DOD and Jackson State, and that would create careers, create a research center in downtown Jackson that would deal with cybersecurity, that would deal with artificial intelligence, that would deal with other aspects of technology that would not only perform a valuable service for the country, but also help to create career paths for the residents who live here. The other thing is that there are 100,000 jobs that exist in Mississippi, skill level jobs that are going unfilled. The Accelerate Mississippi, which is our workforce training agency in the state, is trying to change that narrative, and they're starting out with 4 different areas where there are jobs waiting for people, and they can't find the folks to take the jobs: plumbers, electricians, data technicians, and cable splicers. And those jobs are paid livable wages. A plumber starting out can earn $70,000 a year in their first year out of the training. So they're providing 8 to 12 weeks of training that they offer and will pay for. And they're willing to work with nonprofits, with churches, with for-profits to come up with a training opportunity where they will set up these training programs. You have to have your own building, but Accelerate excuse me, will pay for the instructors. They'll pay for the equipment. A person goes through an 8 to 12 week training period, earning 40 hours a week, and they pay them between $10 and $15 an hour just to be trained. So you're paid to be trained. And at the end of the training, you have an opportunity for an interview. They don't guarantee you a job, but they guarantee you an opportunity to be employed. You have to sell yourself. So there are other occupations that need to be scaled up as well. And I think that we ought to just put that kind of program on steroids also to try to get more people, not just young people, but people in general. I'd like to see those programs established in high schools. We used to have things like shop and industrial arts. You have to go to a special school now if you're in Hinds County or if you're in the city of Jackson. We used to have shops at every school, every high school, no more. You have to go to the Career Development Center if you want to be trained like that. So I think that we have to first get people to understand that you don't have to wear a coat and tie to be in a career. A diesel mechanic, fresh out of college, out of training, earns $70,000 a year. And so those high-paying jobs that have high skill levels, we ought to focus that for kids, young people who don't want to go to college, but who want to earn a good living. We ought to target them to get into that kind of training because it's needed. There are 100,000 jobs that are out there to be filled, and we don't have the people to fill them. So technology and skill training, I think, are two things that we can do.
Okay. Our next topic is infrastructure, and we like to limit your answer time to 2 minutes for the rest of the questions.
Talk so long.
Good details, but
Yeah, okay. All right. Gotcha.
I travel on Bailey Avenue every day, and there are potholes and various other infrastructure issues that need to be addressed. If you become mayor, how do you propose to fund infrastructure improvement projects in West and South Jackson?
Excuse me. Well, I'm the author of the 1 cent sales tax. I wrote that bill. So that's 1 cent sales tax legislation. It's called the 1% commission. Generates $16 million a year. So I've already got a demonstrated track record of dealing with infrastructure. If you've been out on the JSU Dr. Robert Smith Parkway, that was my first major piece of legislation. Got $20 million to build that road. But we're doing potholes all wrong. We're using bad material and we're using bad equipment to fill those potholes. So after the second rain, they wash away. We have an idea we know about the technology that we can use to fill potholes better and where they last longer. And we're also exploring green bonding. That's where you can finance roads using sustainable materials, and you sell bonds that will help fund that kind of road repair and road construction. Still too long, huh?
No, you really under the mark, but hey. 2 weeks ago, Ted Hennepin came before the city council asking for a rate increase on Jackson's water. If you become mayor, how would you propose Jackson Water deals with the funding gap?
Well, number one, the city right now has nothing to say about Jackson Water. We don't control it. One person does. And the reason for that is when the federal government gave us $800 million to fix our water system, they did not have confidence that the city could manage the money and manage it well. So they set up a third-party manager, Ted Hennepin, who got the job, to be able to manage and put that system back together. He is the czar. One person makes the decision, and that's that guy. He was hired by a federal judge, Henry Wingate, who's really in charge of Jackson Water. The federal court is in charge of Jackson Water, and the federal court hired Hennepin. My goal is to get that system back under the city's control. Now, the reason that he went for the second rate increase in the last year or so, the reason for it is we can't pay for the system. We still aren't collecting the kind of money from ratepayers that we should be collecting that will help fund the system. But the other problem is we've lost population. So we don't have nearly as many people now paying into the water sewer system because they're gone. They're going to Flowood, or they're going to Ridgeland, or going to Clinton or Byron. So we got to rebuild our population. We got to reattract people here, and that will help us be better able to pay for that water system. I don't support it. No, who wants to see their bills go up? But we got to pay it. We got to pay it because otherwise we're not going to be able to afford our water sewer system. So the way that we get those rates lower is adding population, attracting people back in, and also the other reason that we are seeing rate increases is we lost 30% of our revenue for our wastewater system when we allowed West Rankin, the folks over in Flowood, to build their own separate wastewater system. And when we didn't oppose it, the city of Jackson didn't oppose them going and building their own system. 30% of our revenue was coming from West Rankin. We're not going to get that back. So we're going to have to be creative in terms of how we deal with that. And again, I think green bonding to help fund some of those improvements might be another way we can lower the rates.
Yeah, my grandma asked what happened to the public department because the grass is getting tall in front of businesses, just making us look a mess.
I can't tell you what happened because I wasn't there, but I can tell you that under her administration, the Public Works Department is going to be built back up because this place looks horrible. The city of Jackson looks horrible. One of the first things that we're going to do, there is $6.2 million that is sitting down the street at the HUD office, at the federal building. It can be used for a lot of different things, including blight elimination. And why the city isn't dedicating that money to cleaning up a lot of this trash and litter, the dilapidated buildings, the burnout buildings, why they aren't using it to try to come up with ways to stop illegal dumping. I don't understand. So we're going to try to hit the ground running. And again, another reason that folks should vote for me is I can hit the ground running because of my experience and the team I'm going to bring to the table. We will hit the ground running. It's not going to be, oh, well, we're still studying it and seeing what we got to do. We're going to hit the ground running.
So do we have where you take prisoners from jail and then have them come and do community service and clean up? Do we have that?
No, not anymore, but we are going to. But we're going to. And a lot of the prisoners, they don't want to be sitting in a cell 11 hours a day. They'd rather be outdoors getting some fresh air and getting some exercise. A lot of them would. And we're going to use that resource to help clean out the drains and the ditches and the creek beds. A lot of the problems of flooding in Jackson, it's not because our sewer system are all bad. It's because we haven't been cleaning out the ditches. And you get overgrowth in trees and stuff, and that starts to clog stuff up. So yes, we will use inmate assistance to help clean up the city.
My name is Edgar. I go to 10th grade. So now we're going to move on to education. Many students reported that they feel issues of JPS could be fixed with more funding. A large share of school funding comes from local tax dollars. So what are your steps for collecting increased and adequate funding for Jackson schools?
I don't agree with the statement, first of all. Jackson Public Schools has about, you never know what the exact number is, But we went from a 31,000 school enrollment in 2009 to somewhere around 15,000. Some say it's as high as 16,000. Some say it's as low as 14,000. But money is not the issue. We get more Title I and Title III monies than any other school system in the state. We have DeSoto County, by example, is the most popular school system, has the highest enrollment. Rankin County is now the second highest. Jackson's the third. But Jackson gets probably 3 times as much money as DeSoto County because a lot of our money comes from the poverty level of the students that are enrolled. So we get a lot of extra money. The question is, what are we doing with the money? And I think that a lot of it is going towards unnecessary consultants. A lot of times, JPS personnel, they reach retirement age. What do? They go work for a consulting company. And then they come back to JPS and sell JPS whatever they're consulting for. And so I don't think that that's fair. I think we probably need to put a moratorium on a lot of these consulting contracts. I think that also we need to be a little smarter in terms of how we're utilizing the funds that we are getting because we get more federal money in Jackson Public Schools than any other school district. And the ad valorem taxes is how we fund the schools locally. I think we're paying enough in ad valorem, but again, the amount that we contribute for ad valorem has to deal with our population. We're losing population. We have the highest loss of population percentage-wise than any other city our size in the country. Again, we got to rebuild Jackson by attracting people back in here.
All right, my name's Hannah, and recently there's been an ongoing issue of the lack of heating and air conditioning in schools. I attend Murrah High School, and during the winter, many classrooms have little to no heat, causing entire classrooms to relocate to other places. And actually, last semester, Murrah had to close down our school for a full day because we didn't have any heat at all. During this time of year, there was barely any air conditioning in our classrooms. How do you plan to fix these infrastructure issues, specifically in Jackson Public Schools?
Okay, well, directly, that's not the responsibility of the city. JPS has its own budget. JPS's budget is almost the same budget as the city of Jackson. They have, the city of Jackson's budget is about a little over $400 million. JPS's budget is about $385 million a year. What are they doing with the money? And we had during COVID, we got all kinds of federal money in through the ARPA program, through the CARES Act, and that was an opportunity for us to deal with our infrastructure, to deal with the heating and cooling systems, to deal with security, to securitize our buildings. We just shut down 11 buildings, 11 schools. So why is air conditioning a problem still? You still got all this money coming in, and yet you don't have the enrollment. So you got to right size the buildings that these 14 or 15,000 students are in versus we had more buildings than we have students. So they tried to call themselves right-sizing the school district by shutting down all these schools. But I question the fact that in this city, we should have any school that has a problem with heating and air. That should have been handled during the COVID period when we got all that money in. And where the money went, I couldn't tell you. Well, first of all, we should not have shut those schools down without a plan on the future use of the buildings we're about to shut down. The carpet thieves are getting to those buildings now. They're dismantling those buildings as quick as they can by hauling off as much stuff out of air conditioning units, out of the walls. And so whoever does come and take over some of these buildings, they're going to have a real problem because in many cases, these schools have been gutted. But yeah, right now, I'm on the board of Gulf Coast Housing Partnership, and we're about to take one of those schools and turn it into, if we're funded, we're going to turn it into a school for family housing. So we need to be using those schools for housing, for workforce training. We need to be using them for tech centers like what National Cephas is trying to do. We need to be using them to find and develop facilities for the homeless. You know, we got all this homelessness out here. We got all these empty buildings. Why hasn't anybody put two and two together and come up, you got this problem, use this to develop your solution? 11 schools, at least 11 schools, because they shut down 4 or 5, 3 or 4 years earlier. So it's more than 11 schools that have been shut down. It's more like 15 that have been shut down. And we had no plan on how we were going to repurpose those schools. A couple of years ago, the federal government came up with a commercial to residential conversion program. They put $40 billion out there. JPS was made aware of it. Did they go after $1 to do these conversions? Converting a school was an eligible item. And we didn't go after all that federal money that was available for us. And now here we sit with at least, I'd say, 11 to 15 empty buildings. It makes no sense.
Okay, thank you. So my experience with the education of JPS at Lanier is that the quality of the teacher only depends on the state test that we take for that year. So I am in 10th grade, and we have went months without a geometry teacher for the first semester. And they said since we weren't taking a test for that, like a state test for that grade, we take an English test at the end. Okay, so they said we'll be fine without the teacher. So how would you make sure that the school districts recruit and retains excellent teachers?
Well, first of all, I don't believe in taking tests just to pass a test. I believe in preparing young people for the world and preparing them to know how to think. We shouldn't be training folks to take a test, which is what I see a lot of. Don't worry about it. You just answer these questions and you'll pass this test. Well, how is it helping me to think better as a human being? So I'm not for taking a test just to take a test. And I think there's too much emphasis in JPS and other places for folks to be able to pass a test. We need to be training young people in skill sets that develop their analytical thinking and the ability to take information and process it, synthesize it, and come up with solutions. So as far as the training of attracting trained teachers, I believe that we probably need to offer more benefits and better pay, and there's also money that the state will offer to a school district if you're in I forget what they call it, but like in the Mississippi Delta. It's hard to attract people to the Delta to teach because the living conditions in the Delta are not up to standards as they are in a lot of other places. JPS also has that same, falls under that same incentive program. So we need to aggressively get teachers who are willing to come. It's not like it's like a hard to serve community. So Jackson is a hard-to-serve community the same way that Greenville is. We need to use those incentives more effectively to attract and train teachers. I think programs like Teach for America, AmeriCorps, are also good sources of getting quality students. A lot of them will come from outside the state, but there are a lot of kids who graduate from Ivy League schools. They're well-trained, they're well-educated, and they make good teachers. But we don't really aggressively attract those folks, try to attract those folks to us.
I'm Zykeria, I'm in 11th grade, and our final topic is crime, safety, and youth jobs. So some officials have proposed curfews to reduce youth crime. What is your stance on youth curfews, and how would you balance safety with youth freedoms?
I do not believe that a person in the 10th grade on a weeknight should be out after 10 or 11 o'clock. And yet you see a lot of our youth out, walking and roaming the streets after those hours. You should be at home, either getting your sleep or studying. That's just my view on it. I think parental guidance is necessary to enforce curfews. The police don't have enough manpower nor the inclination, because there's a lot more serious thing going on here than youth curfew as an issue. But when I see a 13-year-old get shot in the head and killed, they ain't at home when that happens. They're not at home. So whatever activity they're involved with or whatever crowd they're hanging out with, we got to stop that. We got to stop it. That's the only way I think we will ultimately curb crime in this city, because crime is being committed by a lot of young people. And yet I don't know that police can do it alone. Parents got to do their job. And a lot of parents I won't say that they all are, because I don't believe that they all are, but too many parents are letting their kids run wild. And I think it's time for that to stop.
So there is currently a mayor's summer youth employment program.
I'm sorry, you mentioned the youth opportunities, jobs, and that sort of thing. So my other response earlier, I think, would speak to that. Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify that.
That offers youth pay opportunities to expose them to work ethics and life skills. Jackson Youth said they want more. Do you plan to create more job opportunities for youth in Jackson, especially ones that are year-round?
Yes, so that was what I was speaking to earlier. Neighborhood Youth Corps was a program that was around when I was at your age, and they would put young people in office settings. They would put them in construction settings. Like I say, I worked at the zoo. I worked on a concrete crew for the city public works department. I worked at the old at Hawkins Field at the old Army base that was out there. It was an air base that was out there at Hawkins Field. And what we did is we tore down barracks. So yeah, we need to have the current mayor's youth program services maybe 100 kids. I know it's a small number of young people. Pardon?
It's 100.
See, okay, I just guessed. But there are thousands of young people that fit into that category. And I think that there's money at the U.S. Department of Labor for us to reestablish those youth programs. That was a nationwide program. The Neighborhood Youth Corps that I was involved, it was nationwide. And Department of Labor is who funded it. I think that Jackson can go to the Department of Labor and say, look, we want to get our young people exposed to occupations, have them have an opportunity to earn money during the summer, and then after school, during the course of the school year, have after-school programs for that. And I think there's money to be found to do that. And if we can't find it at the federal level, I think there are foundations, and I think there are corporations that might want to fund something like that.
Okay, now we're going to move on to our last questions. They're rapid fire, so please answer with a simple yes or no. Okay.
That's tough for me, Layla. Come on now.
Well,
Layla, you know I talk a lot. Okay.
Will your administration have a staff member whose job it is to make sure young people have a voice at City Hall?
Yes.
Oh, dang. Okay, then.
I've already thought about that.
Do you plan to revive the Mayor's Youth Council?
Yes. Well, the way that I see it, you have to give youth a voice. They have to feel as if they're engaged. So, yes.
Right now, a rotating student representative attends JPS school board meetings to represent ideas, but they don't have a permanent seat at the table. Would you consider adding a student representative to the school board?
As a voting member of the school board?
No, just as like to give their opinion, 'cause
Absolutely, yes.
Because most press conferences happen during the school day, if elected, will you commit to doing a sit-down interview once a month with a local student journalist like ourselves?
Well, depending on the time, I think regular interchange between the mayor and a student youth council or a mayor's youth council is very healthy. Whether we can do it consistently once a month, and I just don't know, because there are so many issues. That, we're going to be drinking water out of a fire hose, trying to save the city, and so I don't expect that we're going to be getting all of our resources here. I'm going to have to spend a lot of time out of in Washington, out of state, trying to find the money to do these things. So,
Money, okay. Last question.
find some money to do that too.
Would you support a proposal to lower the voting age to 16 in future local elections?
No,
Why not?
because your level of judgment is not mature enough at the age of 16. I really believe that you have to be closer to being a full adult to have a voice in government. So I know, Layla, you don't like that answer, but that's what I believe.
Ooh, that was sassy.
It was what?
Sassy.
Sassy?
Very sassy.
I just don't believe that. A youth's mind is not fully developed until they're 18, 20 years old. Your brain is still being formed when you're 16 years old. No, I'm not going to give you a right to vote.
Counterpoint: they can work and pay taxes at 16.
Oh, really? Well, pay your taxes, but you ain't gonna vote.
Really? Like,
I'm
we
just
can't
not
be
in favor.
informed on what's good for the...
I see the judgment of youth. There are 22-year-olds that are still making naive, bad decisions because
Yet they can vote.
and yet they can vote. But I still say that at the age of 16, I just personally don't believe that youth should have, the 16-year-olds should have the right to vote. That's just me. But what I will also say is I would probably, Layla, be willing to do that. Except we're not teaching civics in our high schools
I was
anymore.
gonna ask you about that. What you
We're
think
not
about
teaching.
that? Like,
I think
we're
it's
so
criminal.
uneducated.
I think it's criminal that we're not teaching. What I see in Jackson public schools and maybe some other school districts is that we're teaching for the test. We're teaching for the test. If it's not about the test, we're not going to do that anymore. And I don't think that that's right. A lot of folks live in this country, they don't know how this country operates. And now you want to give them the vote at age 16, and they're not even being taught civics.
They can vote at 18 and they didn't get taught in high school.
I know,
So,
but they're a little bit more mature at 18 than they are at 16.
Maturity
But I'll just say this: civics ought to be taught. Now, if we had uniform civics being taught in the schools where kids, young people understand how government works, yeah, I might consider going down to 16, but not right now. I'm sorry. No, that's a little presumptive, I think, to do it. But I'm thinking about some people, but we haven't made any commitments to anybody as to promising them a job or saying, hey, we get in, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. But we are starting to think about who can we recruit that's got the talent, the skill set, the experience to do a good job and be on our team. It's going to take a team of people to solve the problems of Jackson. One individual cannot do it, and the team, the city will sink or swim on who we get on the team. And so one of the deficiencies, I think, of this current administration, and I don't mean to knock the incumbent, but we don't have a public works director. We haven't had one in 2.5 years. We don't have a permanent planning and development division director. We don't have a permanent person over building and permits. How can you run a city like that? You can't. And that's why we're seeing a lot of the deterioration and dilapidation that we're seeing.
Okay. Why should first-time voters feel comfortable voting for you?
My experience, the relationships I bring to the table. With those relationships, you can bring resources. Jackson needs money. We need a lot of money. And I have relationships at the federal level. I have relationships at the state level. We have a situation at the county where the county has submitted an interlocal agreement that would set up a partnership between the city and the county. They want to help the city fix these streets. The incumbent won't sign the interlocal agreement. I can't figure out some of this stuff. It doesn't make sense. But we have relationships at the corporate level. We have relationships at the foundation level. And we're going to leverage those relationships in order to bring resources to Jackson. The other thing is that you're not going to find a more well-rounded candidate, even when we had 25 folks running, or however many were running. I have been a job developer for 16 to 21-year-old hard-to-serve youth. I've led an arts and cultural organization. I've been an arts administrator. I worked to bring movies in to be filmed on location in Mississippi. I've been head of the state tourism office. I've run the governor's office of federal state programs. And then I've been a legislator for 32 years. That kind of experience has a lot of value in terms of being able to deal with a lot of the issues that this city needs. So that's why.
Is there anything we didn't ask you that you'd like to say?
I'd like to say that this has been a truly an enjoyable experience. You all are sharp. You've done your homework. You have some great ideas, except for that 16-year-old voting stuff. But no, seriously, it's been a great experience, and I want you all to keep doing what you're doing. You have the means of getting the word out in the world to what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi. So I ask you to keep it on.